أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. I seek refuge in Allah from the accursed evil Lucifer. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. We send salutations upon the mercy of humanity, the selected one, the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This is your humble and respectable orator Muhammad Israel, and we are picking up on page number 218 in the legendary military ideology of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Picking up now from page number 218, bulletin 3.4.6. The time when the arbitration took place was a time of fitna, and the Muslimin were in a situation of confusion despite the fact that they had a Khalif. So how would they have ended up if the Khalif was deposed? Undoubtedly the situation would have gotten worse, but the companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam were too wise and rational to do such they were too wise and rational to do such a thing. Hence it is clear that this idea is invalid according to both reason and the text. Both reason and text. 3.4.7. Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu limited the khilafah to the members of the consultative committee, of whom there were 6, and the Muhajirin and the Ansar approved of that. This was a hint that the Khalifate should not go beyond these 6 men as long as any of them were still alive. At the time of the arbitration, none of them was left except Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu, who had withdrew, showing no interest in any position of authority, and Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, who held the position of Khalif itself and was the best of the 6 after Sayyidina Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anhu. So how could this matter of Khalifate be passed to someone else? So that was not even, again, and we're just reinforcing that the author is doing such. 3.4.8. The reports state that the people of Syria swore allegiance to Muawiyah following the arbitration. The question is, what reason prompted the people of Syria to swear allegiance to Muawiyah? The 2 arbitrators did not reach any conclusion, so there was no reason to arbitrate or there was no reason to attribute that action to the results of the arbitration. Moreover, Ibn Asakir narrated with a chain whose narrators are trustworthy that Sa'id ibn Abdul Aziz at-Tanuqi, the most knowledgeable of the people about Syrian affairs, said Ali in Iraq was called Amirul Mu'mineen and Muawiyah in Syria was called the Amir. When Ali radiallahu anhu passed on, Muawiyah in Syria was called Amir al-Mu'mineen. The text shows the allegiance was not given to Muawiyah as Khalif until Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu had already passed. This was also the view of At-Tabari, who said concerning the last events of the year 40 after the Hijriya, in this year allegiance was sworn to Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan in Ayliyah. Ibn Kathir commented on this, saying, in other words, when Ali radiallahu anhu passed away, the people of Syria swore allegiance to Muawiyah as Khalif, because in their view there was no one left to dispute this position with him. The people of Syria knew that Muawiyah was not equal to Ali in terms of being qualified for the Khilafat, and that it was not permissible for him to become Khalif when it was possible to appoint Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, whose virtue, seniority, knowledge, religious commitment, courage, and all Other virtues were well known to them, just like the virtues of his brethren Abu Bakr Siddiq, Umar bin Khattab, and Sayyidina Uthman bin Affan. May Allah Jalla Jalaluhu be pleased with all of them. In addition to that, the text forbids swearing allegiance to a new caliph when the first caliph is already present. Muslim narrated in his Sahih that Abu Sa'id al-Khudri said, radiyallahu anhu, that the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, if allegiance is sworn to two caliphs, then execute the second one. End quote. There are many similar texts. It is possible that the companions would have unanimously agreed to it is impossible that the companions would have unanimously agreed to go against that saying of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi salatullahi alayk. 3.4.9 Bukhari narrated in his Sahih that Ibn Umar said, I entered upon Hafsa and said, you see the fitna that is taking place among the people, and I was not asked to get involved at all. She said, go and catch up with them because they are waiting for you, and I fear that your staying away from them may lead to division. She kept on at him until he went. After the meeting ended, Muawiyah said, whoever wants to say anything concerning this issue, let him raise his head, for we have no more right to it than him and his father. Going along now to page number 220. Habib ibn Maslama said, open quote, why don't you answer him? Abdullah said, so I changed the way I was sitting. Well, do we go that far? Let's go back a while. So that is correct. We can move along. Habib ibn Maslama said, why don't you answer him? Abdullah said, open quote, so I changed the way I was sitting, and I wanted to say, the one who is more entitled to this position than you is the one who fought you and your father for the sake of al-Islam. But I was afraid to say anything that might cause division and bloodshed and could be misinterpreted. So instead I talked about what Allah Jalla Jalaluhu has prepared in paradise. Habib said, Allah Jalla Jalaluhu has protected you from causing any fitna, end quote. It may be understood that this report is referring to the time when allegiance was sworn to Muawiyah as Caliph, but it does not contain any clear indication to that effect. Some of the scholars said that this report refers to the meeting in which Al-Hasan ibn Ali radiallahu anhu coincided with Muawiyah radiallahu anhu. Ibn al-Jawzi said, open quote, this speech was given at the time of Muawiyah when he wanted to make his son Yazid ibn Abi Yazid his heir to the Caliph, to the Khilaf. And Ibn Hajar said that it was at the time of arbitration. However, the apparent meaning of the text supports the first two views. The words, I was afraid to say something that might cause division and bloodshed, are indicative of the unity that existed at the time of Muawiyah, because at the time of the arbitration there was division and dissent already, not unity and harmony. And Allah Jalla Jalaluhu knows best. 3.4.9 the real conclusion of the arbitration. I suppose this is something that everyone will have in a fondness of. What is the real deal? So let's go on. The real conclusion of the arbitration, there is no doubt that the disputed issue, which the two arbitrators decided to refer to the Ummah and to the members of the consultative committee, was nothing other than the point of dispute between Ali and Muawiyah radiallahu anhuma, namely the issue of the murderers of Uthman. Muawiyah was not laying claim to the Khilafat or denying Ali's right to it, as has been established above. Rather, he refused to swear allegiance to him and obey his instructions in Syria, since he had authority there in reality, if not legitimately. And what helped him was the people's obedience to him, for he had been its governor for 20 years. Ibn Dihya al-Kalbi said in his book An-Nasr al-Mubin fil Mufadala bayna Ahl Siffeen, Abu Bakr Muhammad al-Tayyib al-Ash'ari al-Baqilani said in Manaqib al-A'imah, the two arbitrators never reached a decision to depose Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. Even if they had reached a decision to depose him, he could not have been deposed unless the Quran or Sunnah, which were the reference points for them both, dictated that he should be deposed, provided that the two arbitrators both agreed to that, or until they could explain what dictated deposing him on the basis of Quran and the Sunnah of Rasoolu'Allahi alayka salawatullahi alayk. The text of Ali's letter radiallahu anhu stipulated that the two arbitrators should judge in accordance with the book of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu from beginning to end, and that they should not go beyond that, drift away from it, follow their whims and desires, or be biased. He took the most solemn pledge from them that if they went beyond the book of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, the verdict would not count. The Quran and Sunnah, meaning the example, confirmed the position as Khalif and praised, or it confirmed his position as the Amir al-Mu'mineen, as the Khalifa, and praised him, and they testified to his sincerity, good character, leadership, seniority in al-Islam, impressive efforts in jihad fi sabilillah, and the warfare against the polytheists, the closeness to the leader of the messengers of Allah, the messengers, unique qualities of deep knowledge of ruling, wisdom, and the fact that he was entitled to leadership and qualified to carry the burden of Khilafat. 3.4.11, where the meeting was held. The appointment for the meeting between the two arbitrators, as it says in the document, was to be in Ramadan, 37 years after the Hijriya, if nothing happened to prevent it, in a place between Iraq and Syria. The place chosen was Daumatul Jandal, according to trustworthy report, and Adhrah, according to other reports which are less authentic. Perhaps the fact that the two places are actually close to one another is the reason for the difference in the reports, as Khalifa ibn Khayyat said, Adhrah, which is close to Daumatul Jandal, was also mentioned. The meeting took place at the appointed time with no problems whatsoever. The place where the two arbitrators met was Daumatul Jandal. This is contrary to what was stated by Yaqut al-Hamawi, who said that the arbitration took place in Adhrah, and mentioned as evidence for that some reports which he did not actually quote, as well as some lines of poetry. 3.4.12, was Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas present at the meeting of the two arbitrators? The two arbitrators met at the appointed time and place, each of them accompanied by a few hundred people who represented the two delegations. One group represented the people of Iraq and the other group represented the people of Syria. The two arbitrators asked a number of prominent people from Quraysh to be present so that they could consult them and ask for their opinions, but many of the senior companions who had kept out of the fight from the beginning, were not present. The best of these was Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu, may Allah Jalla Jalaluhu be pleased with him, who was not present at the arbitration. He did not want that. He had never thought of it. It was narrated from Amir ibn Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas that his brother Umar went to Sa'ad. It was narrated from Amir ibn Sa'ad that his brother Umar went to Sa'ad, who was tending his sheep outside Al-Madinah. When he came to him, he said, "Oh my father, are you content to be like a Bedouin tending your sheep while the people are disputing power in Medina?" Sa'ad struck Umar on the chest and said, "Be quiet. I heard the messenger of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu said, Allah loves the slave who is pious, pure, and not prominent." Subhanallah. Inshallah, we're going to end this one here on page number the beginning of page number 223. All praise and glory is due to Allah alone, the sublime. In remembering Him, in Him alone is great forgiveness from Him, and bounties from Him, and guidance from Him. And we send praises and salutations upon all of the prophets, all of the messengers that Allah sent to mankind to teach us and to help us understand who He is. And the final prayer that we have is all praise and supplication is due to our Creator, Allah Jalla Jalaluhu. This is your humble and respectable orator, Muhammad Israel, over and out.